Have you ever noticed how, no matter how far science advances, there are still silences it cannot explain? Moments when the mind simply doesn't respond. And it's exactly there, in that space between knowing and feeling, that something deeper begins to speak. In the next few minutes, you'll understand why faith is the invisible bridge between the brain and inner peace. You'll discover how prayer can literally reprogram your neural circuits, and what happens in your body when you surrender to the divine with real presence. But first, take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear may forever change the way you understand the power of your mind. Imagine for a moment that all the anxiety, fear, and mental noise you carry aren't mistakes, but rather a calling, a request from your own brain, begging for silence, for direction, for connection. Have you felt that before? That feeling of being tired of understanding everything and yet sensing a void that logic can't fill? That's the point where science goes silent. And it's precisely at that moment that faith begins to speak. Because the real question isn't whether faith works. The real question is, what happens inside your brain when you truly believe? Neuroscientific studies show that during prayer, the areas linked to anxiety reduce their activity, while regions of focus and empathy light up. It's as if the brain whispers, "Now I can rest." But there's something those studies still can't capture. That moment when the human mind completely surrenders, when logic dissolves and a kind of peace arises that no medicine, no method, no course could ever teach. At the end of this video, I'll reveal the exact protocol I use every day to align mind, faith, and neuroplasticity. But first, you need to understand why believing is a mental training just as powerful as any scientific practice. Faith, contrary to what many believe, isn't the opposite of reason. It's the invisible fuel that gives reason life. Without faith, the brain loses direction, purpose, and emotional coherence. Without faith, the mind becomes a machine that calculates but doesn't feel. And that's why so many intelligent people live lost. Prayer, when done with intention, is a technology, an ancient code the brain recognizes. Every word spoken in silence, every breath, every pause, is like rewriting your nervous system, command by command, until the whole body understands, "Now I am safe." And it's in that moment that the miracle begins. Not the kind of miracle that defies logic, but the one that completes it. That instant when you feel that chaos has stopped and everything, inside and out, is exactly where it's meant to be. You'll understand in the next part how to activate this state within yourself, scientifically and spiritually. But before we get there, ask yourself, how many times have you tried to heal using only knowledge and ended up back in the same place? Faith is what gives form to the invisible. It's the bridge between the rational and intuitive hemispheres. It's the moment when the brain stops searching and starts receiving. And maybe you're hearing this now because something inside you is asking for exactly that, to rest within your own mind. Stay with me until the end, because once you understand how neuroscience explains prayer, everything will make sense. You'll see that peace isn't a mystery, it's a circuit. And that circuit can be activated today. You know what I discovered? When I started studying the brain with the same eyes I once used to pray, I discovered that faith and science were never opposites. They've always spoken the same language, just with different accents. When I started praying every day, not out of obligation, but out of connection, I noticed something curious. My mind became more stable. The thoughts that once came like storms started to come like clouds. They still passed, but they no longer carried me away. That's when I realized what neuroscientists call neurocoherence. This beautiful word simply means when the brain, the heart, and the body move in the same rhythm. As if, for a moment, everything inside me whispered, "We are at peace." But the most incredible part is that this doesn't happen by chance. Prayer, when done with presence, activates the same brain regions as mindfulness and meditation practices. It's as if the brain gradually learns how to turn faith into focus. And I know, it might sound too poetic, but it's science. Brain scans show that during deep prayer, the prefrontal cortex, the area of decision and planning, becomes more balanced. The limbic system, which controls intense emotions, slows down. And the hippocampus, linked to emotional memory, reorganizes itself. In other words, praying isn't just asking for something. It's literally reorganizing your brain to trust. And when the mind trusts, the body rests. That's why, at the end of this video, I want to show you step by step the practice I use to reach this state, even on days when everything feels like noise and confusion. But first, let me tell you something personal. For a long time, I believed that the more I studied, the more I could control everything. But the more I tried to understand, the more lost I felt. Until one night, in silence, I simply said, "I don't know." And in that instant, something inside me softened. Today, I understand. The brain needs to learn to stop fighting what it doesn't understand. Because when it tries to explain everything, it disconnects from feeling. And feeling is the channel of faith. Faith doesn't eliminate fear, it walks through it. It teaches the brain not to react, but to observe. It's as if, suddenly, chaos stopped being the enemy and became a teacher, one that silently teaches you to trust the invisible, and that's exactly what you'll learn in the protocol I'll share soon. How to teach your brain to transform doubt into trust and noise into direction. But before that, pay attention to this detail. When you pray with intention, the brain begins to synchronize electrical waves between both hemispheres. That creates a pattern scientists call alpha-theta coherence, a state between the conscious and unconscious. It's like being awake and at peace at the same time. That's the point where faith becomes neuroscience. Because the mind, in silence, starts listening to the body. And the body finally answers. In that state, the heart rate slows down. Blood pressure drops. Cerebral oxygenation increases. And the feeling is one of pure presence. Alive, calm, real. That's why prayer isn't an escape. It's a return. A return to the most forgotten point of modern human life, inner silence. And maybe you've never noticed, but the peace you're searching for isn't in knowing what to do. It's in knowing how to stay present enough to hear what the mind can't translate. Science explains the how. Faith reveals the why. And when the two meet, transformation happens. When I understood that, everything changed. I no longer had to fight myself. I started using faith as a mental tool, a daily training of reconnection with calm. And maybe that's what so many people are missing, not believing in something out there, but relearning how to believe inside. In the next part, I'm going to show you how to create this state at home in less than 5 minutes a day. I'll explain how to turn prayer into brain training and how this simple habit can reshape your neural networks and bring a physical, not just emotional, sense of peace. So stay with me, because in the end, you'll understand that faith isn't an escape from reality. It's the code that translates the invisible into action, and your brain is ready to learn that language. The science taught me how to think, but faith taught me how to feel, and when the two met, the noise disappeared. Now, I want you to pause with me. Nothing complicated, nothing too mystical, just stop. If you're sitting, uncross your legs. Relax your shoulders. Exhale slowly, and for a moment, feel the weight of your body being held by the chair, the floor, the earth itself. Do you feel it? You don't need to control anything. Everything is already being supported. This is the first step of what I call the neural faith protocol. Allowing the body to remember it doesn't need to fight all the time. I learned that the brain only trusts when the body gives permission. When you breathe consciously, you send a direct signal to your nervous system. It's okay. I can slow down. And in that moment, the mind begins to listen. It's subtle, but that's where the miracle begins, not the miracle outside, but the one within. At the end of this video, I'm going to teach you how to turn this simple pause into a daily neural reprogramming practice, where every thought aligns with the feeling of faith. Now, breathe with me. Inhale to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for a moment. And exhale slowly, also to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, feel the air entering, expanding your chest, your abdomen, your shoulders. And as you breathe out, imagine that along with the air, the noise leaves, the rush leaves, the fear leaves. With every breath, you're training your brain to stay present. And presence is the first step of faith. When I started doing this, I noticed something fascinating. My heart rate slowed down. The tension in my body faded away. And little by little, a quiet sense of trust began to take over. It wasn't thought. It was certainty. Certainty without words. Neuroscience calls this the state of autonomic coherence, when the heart and brain vibrate in the same rhythm. But honestly, I call it living prayer, because that's what prayer really is. It's not a request. It's a reminder. A reminder that everything you're searching for is already within. It just needed silence to be heard. In a moment, I'll show you how to keep this state even in the middle of chaos, how to turn faith into an inner button for mental realignment. But before that, do something simple. Place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and just listen. Don't try to change anything. Just listen to the rhythm. Thump, thump, sound is your center, your code of presence. And every time the world tries to pull you off balance, that's the sound you return to. Faith begins there. Not when you understand, but when you feel. When the heart begins to lead the brain, something changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing control and start flowing with what is. For a long time, I confused faith with hope. Hope waits. Faith moves in silence. Faith is internal movement. It's the moment when the brain bows to mystery and finds rest. And that's what I want you to feel now. A rest that doesn't depend on what's happening outside. A peace that rises from within and slowly transforms everything around you. Stay with me until the end, because soon I'll guide you through a complete exercise A short routine that teaches your brain to enter this state every day until calm becomes natural. For now, notice how your body reacts to the simplicity of the present moment, how everything feels. Enough. You don't need to prove anything or understand everything. Your only task right now is to stay here. Faith lives in this space between what you want to control and what you choose to surrender. And when you surrender, something awakens inside the brain, a completely new electrical pattern. It's the neural signature of trust. It doesn't depend on religion. It depends on presence. And the more you practice, the more your brain understands. Peace is safe. I can stay here. I know it may sound too simple to be powerful, but it's exactly this simplicity the brain needs. It doesn't transform through effort. It transforms through repetition. And every time you breathe with faith, you create a new neural path, a bridge between reason and feeling. Over time, that bridge becomes a road, and that road leads you back home. In the next part, I'll show you how to turn this feeling into a daily practice. A few minutes capable of silencing mental noise, rebalancing your emotions, and training your brain for peace. It's the most important step in everything we've talked about so far. So don't leave. Because that's where faith becomes science, and science finally becomes silence. Now it's time to put everything into practice. No complications. Faith, when it's alive, fits into just a few minutes, but it can transform your entire day. I call this the neural faith routine. It has only 3 steps. Simple but profound. As I guide you, do it with me. 1. Anchor the body. Close your eyes. Feel the air coming in. Feel your body existing. Notice your feet touching the floor, the support of your back, the weight of your head. Everything you need is here. Now inhale. And as you exhale, imagine a golden light descending from your shoulders to your chest. That light is the signal to your brain. We are safe. Repeat with me in your mind. I don't need to rush. I can stay. This phrase, repeated slowly, reorganizes the nervous system. With each repetition, your brain waves slow down and your breathing returns to its natural rhythm. This is the first code of neural faith, physical presence as spiritual language. At the end of this video, I'll show you how to use this same anchor even in the middle of chaos, so no situation can pull you out of this state. 2. Reprogram the mind with the body anchored. Let's speak to the mind. It's intelligent, but it needs direction. So as you keep breathing, repeat with me, silently or softly. I trust even when I don't understand. What is meant for me stays. Calm teaches me more than fear. These aren't magic words. They're electrical commands. Every time you think them with intention, new neural pathways form. You are literally teaching your brain to choose trust over control. And when that happens, the body understands, I can rest. In a moment, I'll tell you how to imprint these phrases in your subconscious so they become reflexes, not effort. 3. Expand consciousness now. Bring your attention to the space around you. Notice the air touching your skin, the temperature, the sounds around you. Imagine a golden sphere of light expanding from your chest, growing until it fills the entire room. This is the visual translation of faith. Not blind belief, but a field of coherence between you and everything that exists. As the light expands, repeat, I am part of the whole. The whole lives within me. Feel how this phrase changes your breathing rhythm. The heart follows, and the brain synchronizes. This is called theta-gamma resonance, the same pattern found in deep meditation and collective prayer experiences. When I reached this level for the first time, I felt a quiet clarity, as if every thought finally had a place to rest. It wasn't euphoria. It was alignment. And maybe you're feeling a different kind of calm right now. Not excitement, not drowsiness, presence. That's it. Faith isn't escape. It's stability. Stay with me until the end, because in the next and final part, I'll show you how to keep this frequency throughout the day, even during hard conversations in traffic or at work. That's the part that turns this exercise into a habit. For now, remember one thing. With every conscious breath, I train my brain to trust. That's the mantra of the neural faith routine. Repeat it when you wake up, before you sleep, whenever your mind wants to run. Over time, you'll notice silence becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes home. If faith is a frequency, now you already know how to tune in. But there's one last step, the one that turns everything we've felt so far into real-world action. That's what I want to talk about next. The moment when faith stops being an experience and becomes direction. The science taught me how to think. Faith taught me how to feel. And together, they taught me how to live in peace. Now that the body feels light and the mind is quiet, pay attention to this silence. It's not empty. It's presence. This is where faith lives, not in the words, but in the space between them. For a long time, I thought I had to understand everything before I could trust. Now I see trust comes first, understanding comes later. Science showed me the maps, but faith taught me the way. When you practice this routine, something subtle begins to happen. Thoughts still come, but they no longer lead. Fear still appears, but you recognize its voice. And in that recognition, fear loses its power. This is where faith and neuroscience meet. The brain understands what the spirit has always known. I can be at peace, even without answers. Remember when I said at the beginning that I would show you how to unite faith and science to quiet the mental noise? Now you can feel that result within you. This calm you feel isn't escape, it's training. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to stay there. What begins as an exercise becomes a memory. And the brain loves memories of safety. Each time you repeat, it records, this place is safe. I can return here. That's the true power of conscious prayer, turning peace into a biological habit. But there's something even deeper. When you live in this state of coherence, your energy changes. You speak differently. You decide differently. You see differently. And the world responds. Science calls it synchronicity. Faith calls it purpose. I call it alignment. And that's exactly what I want you to take from this. It's not about believing in the invisible. It's about seeing the visible in a new way. Faith doesn't erase reason. It expands it. It opens space for the brain to work with the heart, not against it. So every time the noise returns, remember, breathe, anchor, repeat, I can stay. This phrase is simple, but it's a code. A reminder that peace isn't a reward, it's an available state. I learned that faith isn't the end of science. It's its beginning. When science grows silent, it's because it's reached the edge of the visible. And it's at that edge that faith begins to whisper, keep going. There's more. Maybe that's what you need to hear today. That there is more. More calm, more direction. More life waiting for you beyond the noise. And if you want to keep walking with me through this space between mind and soul, stay here. There are other videos where we go deeper into this practice with guided focus, prayer, and expansion of consciousness. But before you go, leave something in the comments. I choose peace. When you write it, your brain records it. It turns intention into action. And that's the final step of the training, to manifest silence. The mind understands when faith speaks. And when the two listen to each other, the impossible becomes natural. See you in the next video. And may your brain never forget where silence begins.